The trolley problem is the most famous moral puzzle ever written, and most people contradict themselves within 2 questions. A runaway trolley will kill 5 people tied to the track unless you pull a lever that sends it onto a siding where it kills one. Almost everyone pulls it. Then the setup shifts. Now, the only way to stop it is to shove a large stranger off a footbridge into its path. The trade is identical, 1 life to save 5, yet almost everyone refuses. Philippa Foot posed the original case in 1967, and a decade later, Judith Thomson added the footbridge, and together they expose something uncomfortable. Right and wrong behave less like a rule we apply and more like instincts that flip when the same trade is staged differently. The first certainty falls, that your morality is consistent. The veil of ignorance asks you to design a society without knowing who you will be inside it. John Rawls proposed it in 1971 as a machine for finding what is fair. You write a country's rules, its laws, its taxes, who gets what, from behind a veil that hides your own future, your wealth, your race, your talents, whether you will be born brilliant or disabled, comfortable or desperate. Rawls argued that pure self-interest now produces justice because nobody who might land at the very bottom will allow a bottom too cruel to survive. The trolley tested your instincts. This tests your fairness and finds it was quietly built around already knowing your own position. Struck, then, the certainty that you know what a fair world looks like. The experience machine offers you a perfect life and asks why you will not take it. In 1974, Robert Nozick imagined a tank you float in, wired to feed your brain any experience you choose, indistinguishable from the real thing. You could live as a beloved artist or a great explorer, endlessly happy, and never know that none of it happened. Yet almost nobody plugs in for good. If pleasure were the only thing we valued, the choice would be easy, so our refusal means we want to actually do things, not merely feel that we did. The certainty it cracks that a good feeling was all you were ever after. Hold on to that tank, because the 11th experiment asks how you know you are not already inside one. Plato's cave is 2,400 years old and still the sharpest picture of not knowing what you cannot see. Around 380 BC, Plato imagined prisoners chained since birth, facing a bare wall. Behind them, a fire throws shadows of passing objects onto that wall. And because shadows are all they have ever seen, the prisoners take them for the entire world, naming them, studying them, handing out prizes for whoever predicts them best. Free one prisoner, drag him into the sunlight, and reality is blinding and unbelievable to him. The twist that stings comes when he returns. The others are certain the light has ruined his mind, and they want no part of it. The certainty it removes, that you are seeing the world itself and not its shadows. The Ship of Theseus asks when a thing you keep repairing stops being the same thing. The puzzle comes from Plutarch, writing near 100 AD about a ship the Athenians preserved for centuries. As each wooden plank rotted, they replaced it until not one original piece remained. Is it still the Ship of Theseus? Most people say yes, and then Thomas Hobbes twists the knife. Suppose you had saved every discarded plank and rebuilt the original from them. Now, 2 ships float in the harbor, and both have a perfect claim to be the one, which cannot both be true. No fact about the wood settles it, because sameness over time was never sitting in the planks. Struck, the certainty that a thing stays itself as its parts change. And if that is shaky for a ship, the next experiment aims it straight at you. The Teletransporter destroys you on Earth and rebuilds you on Mars, and asks whether the traveler is still you. Derek Parfit made this the center of his 1984 book on identity. The machine scans the exact position of every atom in your body, vaporizes the original, and assembles a perfect copy from fresh matter on Mars. Same memories, same scar, same fear of the machine. The copy steps out certain that it is you and walked in a moment ago, but the original you was destroyed in the scan. So did you travel, or did you die on Earth while a stranger who merely thinks he is you woke up wearing your life? Push it one turn further. If the scanner leaves the original alive by mistake, there are now two of you, and they cannot both be the real one. What it takes from you is the certainty that you are one continuous person, threading unbroken from birth to now. Mary's room traps a scientist inside everything science can say about color. Frank Jackson set it up in 1982. Mary has lived her whole life in a black and white room, learning every physical fact about vision, every wavelength, every neuron, exactly what fires in a brain that sees red. She knows all of it, completely. Then the door opens and she sees a red rose for the first time. The question is simple. Does she learn anything new? It is almost impossible to answer no. But if she does learn something, if seeing red teaches her what all the facts left out, then the complete physical story of the world is missing something real. The conclusion was so strong that Jackson, who built the room, later spent years arguing his own experiment was wrong. Struck, the certainty that knowing every fact is the same as knowing everything. The Chinese room shows a person pass a fluency test in a language they cannot understand. John Searle imagined it in 1980, and it lands harder every year that machines improve. You sit locked in a room with an enormous rule book. Slips of paper covered in Chinese characters arrive through a slot. You look up each shape in the book, copy out whatever symbols it instructs, and pass them back. To the fluent speakers outside, the replies are flawless, so the room appears to understand Chinese perfectly. But you understand nothing, shuffling shapes you cannot read. Searle's target is every system that seems to think, following rules on symbols, however perfectly, may never once add up to understanding them. The certainty it dissolves, that behaving intelligently means someone or something is home to understand it. Schrodinger's cat puts a living animal into two states at once to show how absurd that would be. Erwin Schrodinger built it in 1935, and he meant it as a complaint, not a marvel. A cat sits sealed in a box with a single radioactive atom, a detector, and a vial of poison. If the atom decays, the poison releases and the cat dies. The rules of quantum physics say the atom is genuinely both decayed and not decayed until it is measured. So the cat, chained to that atom, is somehow alive and dead together until someone opens the box. Schrodinger's point was that this is plainly wrong for a cat, which forces the real question of where the strange quantum world stops and the ordinary one begins. Struck, the certainty that things are always in one definite state, whether or not anyone looks. Zeno's paradox proves, with clean and simple logic, that motion is impossible while you watch it happen anyway. Around 450 BC, Zeno of Elea argued that fast Achilles can never catch a slow tortoise given a head start. First, Achilles must reach where the tortoise began. By the time he arrives, it has crawled a little ahead. He closes that new gap. It has crept on again. Every single time he reaches where it was, it has moved, so the gaps never run out and he never passes it. Yet in the real world, he overtakes it in a stride. The paradox stood for 2,000 years, and dissolving it took proving that an endless series of ever-shrinking distances can add up to a finite length. The certainty it strikes that whatever is obviously true and whatever you can prove will always agree. The brain in a vat is Plato's cave rebuilt with wires, and you cannot rule it out where you sit right now. In 1981, Hilary Putnam gave the ancient nightmare its modern form. Suppose your brain floats in a vat of fluid wired to a computer that feeds it every signal a living body would send. These words, your hands, the room around you, all generated, none of it real. Every experience you could use to check would feel exactly as it does this second, because the check itself would be fed to you as well. This is the engine underneath every simulation story, and the sharp edge is that no test run from inside the vat can ever disprove the vat. Remember Nozick's tank, except here you did not choose it, and you cannot climb out. Struck. The certainty that you can tell you are not being completely deceived. Philosophical zombies imagine a person identical to you in every way but one, that nobody is home inside. David Chalmers pressed the idea in 1996 to corner the deepest unsolved problem in science. Picture a being built atom for atom, the same as you, same brain, same words, same wince when it stubs a toe, except that it feels absolutely nothing within, no experience, no inner light, only the machinery running in the dark. If such a thing is even coherent to imagine, then experience is an extra fact that no physical description of you captures. And here, the whole video turns back on you, because you can watch anyone behave, run every possible scan, and never once reach the feeling behind their eyes, or prove there is any feeling there at all. Struck last of all, the certainty that you can ever truly know anyone else is conscious.